We continue to hear a lot about what is happening in Washington, D.C., with hypotheticals stacked upon hypotheticals and stacked upon hypotheticals. What I want to talk to you about is something that's happening right here, right now, and that is our budget that's right here in front of us, with a proposed almost 8% increase in spending. And I think we need to work together to find some savings. One of the things I was really fascinated to learn in the Department of Community and Economic Development's budget was that the Office of Open Records was suddenly informed that they will be required to move their office from 333 Market Street in Harrisburg. This is going to result in the office being responsible for a lease payment for the very first time. Can you please explain to the committee why they are being required to move?
Sure. So I hope that all of you have heard about the Space Optimization and Utilization Plan. Yes, it is SOUP. Apologies for that. That is the acronym. But it was really looking at utilization of space across the entire Commonwealth, both leased space and owned space.
And this has been in the works for some time. So why was this sudden news to the Office of Open Records?
So we've been talking with everyone over there because 333, I have the top 2 floors are our budget, and we're in the process of moving out of there as well and consolidating our space. So it's a large lease space that we need to get out of. We do not need it. As
is
part
that building owned by the Commonwealth, or is that building leased by the Commonwealth?
It's leased by the Commonwealth.
It's leased by the Commonwealth.
Yes.
So multiple agencies have stated that they're in that process of consolidating space and reducing their footprints because so many state employees are working from home, DEP, Department of Ed. How is it that the Office of Open Records would be leaving the space and now be required to take on that cost, while it appears that there's a significant amount of state office building space available currently?
So this is actually part of trying to have a transparent budget process so that we have costs of the space with every budget, and they're not being penalized in the sense that we are also adding to their revenue, that their allocation side, the money to pay for it, so they're being held harmless in the sense of it, but it really is to...
So you're just shifting the cost from the general operations budget into the Office of Open Records budget?
So, and part of it is, and there's a lot of discussion we have in a lot of areas about accountability, and if you are not responsible for your office space, you may not use office space as wisely as you can, and we want to have a metric there. So this applies to everybody, and for those that don't have it, but in that transition, it's a hold harmless for any office that's doing that.
Very good, thank you. Earlier this week, I saw a job posting for the position of content director for the governor's office, and this is one of the many, many digital media positions in the governor's office, which has grown substantially under Governor Shapiro. Governor Wolf had 12 members on his team committed to communications efforts. Governor Shapiro has 26. And it specifically said that part of the job is managing the office's relationship with Commonwealth Media Services. As you know, Mr. Secretary, Commonwealth Media Services has also hired several new digital media positions since Governor Shapiro took office. And I know you probably don't have the information readily available here today, but as part of your follow-up, could you please provide a breakdown on the number of digital projects that Commonwealth Media Services team has completed for the governor's office and state agencies under his jurisdiction, as opposed to other entities that use Commonwealth Media Services?
We'll get back to you with that information.
Very good. Now, from time to time, we have seen some digital content on Governor Shapiro's social media platforms that is, well, let's just put it this way, interesting. And if anyone has been in the cafeteria when the governor comes for lunch, it's a bit of a spectacle, and I'm just going to leave it at that. So there was one that showed Governor Shapiro as a character in a mock video game, and another with him dancing with people from a podcast episode on TikTok. We have heard about him potentially bringing photographers to other sometimes tragic situations. Is that an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars as our Commonwealth is facing a $3.2 billion structural deficit?
So I want to take the two of them separately. The last one on the tragic circumstances where there are photographers. Start with that. I think it's important when there are events like that in the Commonwealth for everyone to see the governor there, see our leadership there, see everyone who is there to understand that this is something that affects us and that there are people in charge. I think that's really important. As the father of a 24-year-old, 22-year-old, and 17-year-old, folks get their information in lots of different ways. I'm allowed to view TikTok. I'm not allowed to post on TikTok by my children. That's been made very clear to me. And I think that there are different, everyone accesses information differently than I would, differently than they do. And I think the governor's trying to get information out to as many people as possible in different ways.
I think the bigger question is we're going to be asking all Pennsylvanians to tighten their belts. And the question really is, should the governor lead by example and try to trim some of that fat from his own office's budget, or should we continue to subsidize what appears to be kind of frivolous content that provides little value to the taxpayers? So I see that my time is up. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr.